when there's opposition, when the union has difficult battles going on, people are getting laid off, they're being disciplined, they're doing different things that are trying to cut your salary, take benefits away. When those things happen, the membership gets stronger. They pull together and they get more aggressive. I'm gonna tell you something, that's a street fight. And when you're in a street fight, you fight to win. And this is what helped us win.
The Springfield Fire Department and Local 37 have a long and proud history. Unlike many locals who took up job actions in the 1970s, Local 37 wasn't fighting for recognition. They had been recognized as a union by the city for decades. Their fight was a refusal to settle for anything less than a written contract. 50 years later, this is the story of the 1976 Local 37 strike.
Springfield, Illinois, is the heart of the AFFI, both geographically and symbolically. It's where we gather to advocate, to legislate, and fight for the interests of union firefighters across our state. The members of Local 37, like AFFI members in every community, carry a tremendous responsibility. They protect the people of Illinois during their most difficult moments, often placing their own safety and well-being on the line in service to others. Those who came before us understood that sacrifice. Their struggle laid the foundation for the rights and protections that Local 37 members and all AFFI members continue to enjoy and defend.
I got hired in 1973, came on in January, and was a firefighter. I joined the union right away. I mean, they invited me, and I was union in jobs I'd had prior to that, so I knew more about union than most of the firemen did and I thought, sheet metal was good then, but I knew they weren't always busy. And when the weather was bad, you didn't work. And I thought, firemen work all the time. So I'd try that. And then I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
When I first took the test, I was told that I had a bad heart and I couldn't, they threw me off the list. I finished second on the list, they threw me off. And I went to specialists and they put me back on the list. But in the meantime, they hired 13 other firefighters. But in the interim, I was worked for Fiat Alice, or Alice Chalmers, for 18 months. And we went on strike twice in that time. So I was affiliated with the unions quite often. It sounded like a good job to me. It wasn't big pay. I took a cut in pay from Alice Chalmers to the fire department, but it was the benefits, the things you could do for people, and that was all part of it. You know. I was only on 2 years when I became vice president, and I stayed vice president for a couple, 3 years after that. But other than that, I didn't go any further. I was let somebody else take the reins. I'd gone through about as much as I needed to go through. I got on board pretty fast. I'm outspoken, and they decided they wanted me to be outspoken.
During the 70s, Springfield was still operated under a commissioner form of government. In July of 1976, Local 37, led by President Rex McCauley, had negotiated a working agreement with Health and Safety Commissioner Patrick Ward, whose position oversaw the governance of the police and fire departments. Local 37 viewed the agreement as a binding document, an opinion not shared by the rest of the council, including Finance Commissioner James Dunham.
Up until the strike, as far as what put us on strike probably is we'd never had a contract. They called it a working agreement, and you know the battle cry and the strike was collective begging. But they would go over and they go, well, you know, Commissioner, we could probably use a raise, and so they'd throw them a bone. That's what it come down to. And there was a mayor, and he took care of the cops at that time. There was a public safety commissioner who had the fire department and public health, the nurses, and then there was a finance guy. You ran for commissioner, and whoever got the most votes got to pick the job he wanted, and it went like that. Well, the best vote getter always took CWLP because there was a lot of influence there, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the kind of government we had.
Oh yeah, he voted against us on everything. He was actually a no vote every time. There was no doubt about it. And matter of fact, when we finally settled our contract, he was the only one that didn't vote for it. So yeah, James Dunham was. I think he lived with his mother, so that didn't help things much. And he just wasn't a people person. He just was not. He seemed like he hated all the employees, period, for the city, and he hated us for sure. The working agreement was, first of all, it was something that the commissioners could change at any meeting. It wasn't in stone. It wasn't like, okay, this is the rules. This is what you're going to do. This is what we're going to give you for what you're going to do, because they could change it at any time. And that's what led us to wanting to get something, collective bargaining, get something in writing. And we thought we had it at one point, and then we didn't, and that's why we went on strike.
As weeks and months went by, Local 37 members found themselves faced with a frustrating reality. Although Commissioner Ward was an advocate for the fire department, the so-called working agreement carried little weight over the dictatorship the finance commissioner held over all matters of money. Even a majority vote by the council and mayor would not guarantee James Dunham would fulfill the terms of the agreement. Tensions would come to a head during the early fall as the finance commissioner continued to deny Local 37 members agreed upon holiday pay and comp days.
We didn't have any power. We thought we did, but we didn't have any power. Anytime someone can change what you do, the way you live, your hours of work and so forth, at any time, they got the power. And that's exactly what they had. It had to happen. It had to happen. You couldn't, things could not continue how they were. And we knew that. And if we were the ones that had to go out and try and do it, then that's exactly what happened.
Sure, although the city's civil service code forbade striking, IAFF Representative Mike Lass knew this scenario all too well. With no other viable options, Local 37 authorized a strike vote for October 16, 1976. By a 139-6 margin, Springfield firefighters put everything on the line for the cause of a collective bargaining agreement.
Because Lass had told us, you'll probably be out in 2-3 days at most. Because every other one they'd ever dealt with, it was bada bing, bada boom, we got her done. Whereas Springfield, this commissioner form was part of the problem. Instead of calling a state of emergency and bringing in, each commissioner was off on his own trying to settle it.
Armed with an authorized strike vote, Local 37 spent the next 3 weeks continuing to staff the firehouses and perform their sworn duties, while the chaotic commissioner form of government made little, if any, progress behind the scenes. Meanwhile, support for the firefighters' cause grew as the community, city labor unions, and both the international and state organization rallied around Local 37.
Yeah, we were scared. We didn't know what well, obviously we thought it was going to be over very quickly because we didn't have anything in order. We didn't have burn barrels. We didn't have anything. We thought it would end very quickly. And then we took the probies out with us because we had some probies, and turned out that was not a smart thing to do, but it worked out all right, you know. But yeah, we were scared. I was concerned. There were some people, I'm not mentioning names, that decided to take sick time, decided to be injured, decided to take vacation time, so they weren't on strike. So if we lost our jobs, they weren't going to lose their jobs. There were 2 or 3 of those.
How were those people looked at in the union?
No, not too good. Not too good. Everybody always knew down the line that, you know, one of the guys turned his paycheck into the union because he ended up feeling guilty about it because he got paid the whole time because he was on vacation, you know.
Under the threat of immediate dismissal, the members of Local 37 walked out of the firehouses at 5:30 a.m. on November 11th. As picket lines filled in with Teachers Association and other city union members, firefighters remained diligent of their duties, trading their picket signs for gear and responding each time an alarm rang. What would later become known as the Silver Spanner strategy became a hallmark of this and all other Illinois firefighter job actions.
I think damn near everybody on the executive board said we can't go with no fire protection. It just ain't our nature. But we had a chief and an EMS guy, and then good firefighters, you know. And we had them stationed in motels, one north, one south, and they had a scanner. Where some firefighters showed up at a fire, which was one of the few fires. God, more fires would have been nice. But anyway, the guy said the chief of the department was friendly to us. He respected us, etc. And the newspaper article has it one way, but the way I heard it was that they interviewed the chief and said that there were some people that showed up here and helped out. Do you know who they were? And he said, no, I don't know who they were, but they knew what they were doing.
Within 2 days of the walkout, the city took aggressive action, requesting National Guard troops to stand by in case of a serious fire incident. At the same time, the council secured an injunction forbidding employee pickets at city buildings and appealed to the Police and Fire Commission to terminate the 8 probationary firefighters who joined the strike. On November 13th, while local teachers' union members maintained the picket lines, the 4 principal union officers, President Rex McCauley, Vice President Steve Statman, Secretary Larry Schaefer, and Treasurer Tom Blau were sentenced to 30 days in local jail. Within hours, a Mike Lass-led rally formed outside of the local county jail.
We were in there for 4.5 days. And when we first got there, they actually gave us the mattresses were not very thick. And they gave us double mattresses, so it was more comfortable. Tommy Blau, who was our treasurer, who didn't really want to be a treasurer, but he was the guy that our previous treasurer had left for some reason. And we nominated Tommy at a union meeting. They came up to him second day in, told him he had to get rid of his shoes and his shoelaces. And he said, what for? He said, well, you might hang yourself. He said, I'm in here for contempt of court. I'm not going to hang myself with my shoelaces. So, you know, there were a lot of funny things that happened in there, you know.
With the principal officers of Local 37 jailed, a backup executive board continued to meet with the city. Negotiations were further complicated as additional parties became involved in the conflict. Community leaders, John P. Clark, publisher of the Springfield State Journal Register, and even a local Catholic bishop met with both parties and encouraged an immediate end to the strike. Personalities clashed on the union side as International 8th District Vice President Jack Gannon arrived and advised Local 37 that it was in their best interest to return to work, an opinion that was not shared by Staff Representative Mike Lass. Talks continued with the biggest sticking points revolving around amnesty for the striking firefighters and binding arbitration for disputes.
When Hannigan said, city, talk to these people or you're going to jail. I mean,
it's when Hannigan kind of jumped on our side when he told us flat out, he said, I can't make them sign anything, but I can make them negotiate a contract. And once that happened, is when we decided that we have to do this. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If we lost one life in a fire while we were on strike, we were in trouble. We would have lost a lot of support from the public. and they weren't going to negotiate while we were on strike, and we had the means to get a contract.
Progress was made in negotiations, as the city agreed to submit any agreement from the firefighters to the council for a vote. In exchange, Local 37 members would return to work. Although there were no guarantees that a contract would materialize, emotions were high as the jailed union officers were released. As discussions ensued, the city agreed to a retroactive wage increase and amnesty for all striking firefighters. Encouraged by the progress, Local 37 President McCauley dubbed the proceedings as a new era of true collective bargaining. Finance Commissioner Dunham was the lone no vote on the ordinance. Less than 2 months later, Local 37 ratified their first official collective bargaining agreement in their nearly 60-year history.
It comes down to it, we're fighting our own fight now where we don't have the commissioner for us. So we're advocating for ourselves. It's always a learning process where we saw what works. Now we're trying to develop that and improve on that. So the fact that we're adding these little things to just advocate for ourselves all the time so that we're not a pawn, so to speak, anymore, because when you first get sworn in after your graduation and everything, you go to the club and there's always a corner of the old guys that are back there. And some of the older members are like, hey, that guy went to jail, so you could have this club, so you could have this contract. And you go and you meet those guys. And
the sacrifices and the risks that Rex McCauley and as president of Local 37 and the gentlemen, that our local took and made in 1976 is nothing less than inspirational. I mean, it inspired me as a local leader. It inspired, if you can't listen to their stories and try to put yourself in those shoes and think, could you really think you could drag anybody out on strike right now? The only reason you can't is because of their actions. What they did then is why we have what we've got today.
As the strike of 1976 faded into history, the impact of those days never did. The men of Local 37 had stood at a crossroads, placing their livelihoods on the line for a cause that was greater than any individual. With no blueprint, they navigated their way through a 35-day job action and 10-day strike to ensure the men and women who protect the city of Springfield would always have a voice in their future. Their story reminds us that progress is never given. It is earned through courage, sacrifice, and solidarity. Their legacy lives on in every Local 37 member that joins the union today,